Story RH, the podcast that makes a long story short.
Welcome to all.
History is made of stories.
In this episode, we'll be talking about collective intelligence.
Brainstorming around a table with multicolored post-its on the walls is enough. I mean, at least as long as the people at the table are smart, or raise their voices, or are led by a 5.0 consultant.
Well, not exactly. Collective intelligence isn't an easy concept, and yet, we find it at the heart of the topics related to business transformation, along with sales pitches of all sorts, since change and transformation are constant. It all comes down to an old debate. A company's ability to adapt to its ecosystem, and to adapt, you've got to be intelligent. So, collective intelligence. What's the story?
The pursuit of collective intelligence isn't new. The vast majority of management methods developed relatively recently have all sought to foster it.
Collective intelligence is about being smart together. That includes all of the company's players. Employees, those in charge of the transformation, management, but also external contractors, etc. In other words, all the people who work together.
Hey, isn't that the definition of cooperation? So really, collective intelligence is about working together in an intelligent way, with a common goal and for the common good.
Exactly. But let's add some nuance. Cooperation is touted as a solution to everything. But anyone who suggests you should promote collective intelligence by cooperating more has it backwards.
Cooperation isn't the solution because it's the problem. Cooperation is the foundation of an approach to transformation.
So, collective intelligence is about what we can do collectively. That seems obvious enough. But there's another word in collective intelligence, one which we'll need to examine more closely. And it's not the simplest to understand. Intelligence.
Let's be careful not to let ourselves believe that if we check all the boxes in a long list of benchmark skills, then collective intelligence will magically become an observable reality.
All right, but you can't do without skills when you're trying to define intelligence either.
One of the first steps to achieving collective intelligence is the mastery of necessary skills on an individual level, for your own position and profession.
But there's also the ability to understand the roles and professions of other players with whom you want to cooperate intelligently. That requires at least some understanding of your environment and a degree of open-mindedness.
Next, you need each individual to be capable of using critical thinking, in other words, the ability to analyze a situation, step back for the bigger picture, and understand interconnections.
That's a bare minimum, but it's not enough. So far, we've only described individual qualities, the skills needed to do your jobs and critical thinking. But we've also said that collective intelligence is collective.
This second element is just as important. Collective intelligence resides in the synergies you create within your collective, in exchanges and the sharing of ideas, particularly when they don't all line up.
To promote collective intelligence, you first have to work on the foundation of all interpersonal relationships: trust.
And its corollary, transparency. You can't exercise intelligence if you don't have all the information. So, information must be shared. A group of people where each individual is engaged in power games, trying to protect his or her own backyard, will never arrive at collective intelligence.
Which brings us to the goal which must guide collective intelligence: the common good.
One last thing on collective intelligence, which may seem obvious, but I think it's worthwhile to remind everyone. The more diverse a collective is, in terms of opinion, worldview, ways of thinking, culture, etc., the richer the exchanges will be. Yet another reason to promote diversity.
To recap, collective intelligence is a human challenge. It depends on individual skills, but also on people's ability to trust one another and share information while serving the common good. To be intelligent together, you have to be able to, but most importantly, you have to want to. Is that right?
Exactly right. Way to make a long story short.
Story RH, the podcast that makes a long story short.